In this video, we're dissecting the content strategy of a real estate YouTuber that did $50 million in closed sales in the last 2 to 3 years. The best part about his YouTube channel is it's in a small market of a small suburb outside of a city that has a population of 110,000 people. So if you're in a small market, you want to dominate YouTube, then you definitely want to listen to Raad Alawan. Rod, how's it going?
Hey Raj, how you doing? You got that population thing right, so you do your homework. Appreciate it.
Might have Googled that a few minutes ago. But I'm really excited, Rod, because I'll also do YouTube and we learn from the same person, Jeremy Knight, right? I
Yeah.
think 4 to 5 years ago, I was looking at Jeremy's channel thinking I can do something like this, but I don't want to do it exactly like it. I want to do similar tactics and strategies. And I know you adopted the same thing. So I'm excited to dissect that here. So a lot of people that are listening to this, Rod, already know the basics of YouTube. You have to have a hook at the beginning of the video. You need to retain your audience. They have an idea of how to do YouTube. Let's jump right into strategy. So, content strategy. What is your content strategy? What does it look like in terms of buckets of content? And then how do you execute that on a weekly basis?
Okay, so first and foremost is lifestyle. I don't get into the just listed, just sold thing. So I'll tell people what it's really like to live in New Braunfels or wherever city you live in. And because my goal is for when they move here, I want them to say, look, your stuff is 100% on target. So lifestyle is very important. What it's like to live in New Braunfels, neighborhood videos, real estate market updates, and real estate advice. So those four, and I get at least once a month, I'll do a housing market report. That one drops tomorrow. It's usually at the end of the month. It won't be a bunch of numbers. It'll be about how is it relevant to this market here? And what are we seeing on the ground here? Stuff that Google or any local paper or TV station can't touch.
That's great. And I should back up, Rod, and say to everybody, this is Agent Tactics. We do this every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central, and the goal is rising tide raises all ships. So we're just trying to give value back to agents, especially around social media. Now, I am the Tanner version of Jeremy Knight. My name's Raj Sahu. And like I mentioned earlier, Rod and I both learned YouTube from Jeremy. And so, trying to give back and collaborate with other agents is really important. Now, when you said content strategy around New Braunfels, just so everybody
Yeah.
knows, New Braunfels, Texas is that suburb. It's in between San Antonio and Austin, and it's a small suburb. Nobody's ever heard about it. Even people that live here in Austin,
Yeah,
they're
people
like,
have a hard time
yeah,
pronouncing it.
yeah, they
So
don't
yeah,
even know,
it's
right?
yeah,
They
right.
do. Maybe they heard about it from the Bratwurst or that event that goes on.
Worst fest, yeah,
Worst
yeah,
Fest. I don't even
yeah.
know what it's called. But I'm so fascinated by Rod dominating this area. So the way he does it with that content strategy, you mentioned these buckets of content, Rod, like
Mhm.
lifestyle, neighborhoods, which is like your coming to video, and then market news, and then real estate tips and advice. So for those, which one of those four buckets gets the most views?
Coming to New Braunfels, definitely, and that's something that I started right away. So we'll do those every other month, and it's major projects. Like for instance, Costco's coming to town. You think, well, who cares? We got Costco in our town. Well, I mean, this is Mayberry, USA, so it's not common here.
That was the
Or
talk of Georgetown for 3 years. It's
there you
it's
go.
big.
So Trader Joe's or new developments coming. So whatever people need to be updated on is in that video, and those get um, significantly more views than any other video that we drop.
Got it. And those are the coming to videos. Is that right?
Coming to videos, restaurants, business opening, or updates on those projects not getting off the ground, whatever it is, major projects coming, people tune in for that.
That's great. So, just a snapshot of that for everyone. What Rod is developing is he's got top of funnel content, right? It's that coming to New Braunfels. So when people Google New Braunfels, what is Google doing? They're throwing Rod's YouTube videos at everybody because it's a great place to start. A lot of people
Mhm.
Googling it are going to start there. And then what they end up falling down to is like a real estate tips and advice or a market news. Probably not going to get that much engagement or that many views, but that's where I'm assuming, Rod, that's where you convert. You try to showcase your expertise. You try to connect with your audience emotionally. And also, I'm sure you do that with the lifestyle videos too. And that's where you convert a lot of leads. Is that right?
Exactly. You just sometimes people say, where do you get your information from? Well, it's several different sources. One of the most important sources is myself, driving around town, observing, speaking to builders at least once a week. A lot of our business comes from new construction because that's a growing housing stock here for the last, well, since 2012. So having information in front of them, we know where the rates are. It doesn't matter in South Central Texas. It really doesn't matter what the interest rate is because we have a bunch of builders here offering these record incentives and discounts. And in some of these neighborhoods, the property tax rate is lower. So it makes sense for them. Where in other parts of the country, it may not make sense because those are landlocked communities. So people get information that way. They know where the market's headed and they can make a decision to move this year or next year. And they often respond like, hey, thanks for this information. It helped out. I think we'll do something this year or we'll wait till next year.
That's great. And what I think what Rod just mentioned is a nugget that everybody should pull away, which is interest rates aside, why are people moving, right? It's their motivating factor. And that's where the lifestyle videos, I see you do them often and they do really well. Like this video was just about the floating river that's in New Braunfels or something like that. Is that right, Rod?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do this video and it just shows like what people can experience around New Braunfels. And obviously that's why people are moving to this small suburb. It's for the lifestyle.
Definitely. I mean, it's for the values of this community. It's a different vibe than Austin or San Antonio. It's for the rivers, it's for the parks, it's for the historical downtown areas in Green and downtown New Braunfels. It kind of feels like this Hallmark movie channel town, with its charm and history. That's why, and life tends to slow down a little bit more here when you're surrounded by that.
That's so good. What I think is a good takeaway from this is Rod is channeling his target audience's needs, right? And
Mhm.
everybody has different target audiences, and each of those target audiences have different needs. As soon as you started talking, Rod, about like lifestyle, and then I see these videos of like floating river, and I've seen you do other ones, I realize like that is not what I do with my target audience because their needs are they have small kids, they're outgrowing their house in California and Seattle, and they just need a house in a great school district that's close to tech companies here in Austin, right?
Right.
If they ask
Yeah.
me about lifestyle, I eat at Chick-fil-A like every other day. Like I don't have the lifestyle that I think is going to resonate with people on YouTube. So I don't
Right.
really ever talk about lifestyle, but I talk about homes and what it's like to live within communities and what it's like to grow a family without talking too much about family because familial status is protected. But I can talk about my own
Sure.
family, having a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I really lean in on that. For you, it's about the lifestyle New Braunfels, which I think does really well. For everybody that's here live, again, we do this every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central. If you want to join live, just comment below and try to get a link for future Agent Tactics. But everybody in here, does anybody have any questions about Rod's content strategy and a need like a breakdown of what that looks like here?
Yeah, so
Go ahead, Tom.
thanks. How do you go about finding out who's coming to town or what's coming to town? So you've got this amazing video.
Very good question. A lot of it comes through observation and follow up. If I see something, for instance, I see something being built downtown. This looks like a 3-story bar. And then bam, I'll stop by and lo and behold, there's a 3-story rooftop bar. I subscribe to local publications, digital, and also regional, like San Antonio and Austin business journals and San Antonio Express. So I subscribe to about 7 different digital platforms. And it's just kind of like, I read it every day. And if I think it's relevant, then I'll pounce on it. If I don't think it's relevant, then I won't pounce on it.
That was a great question, Tom. A additional question, Rod. How do you script then for some of these videos? Like this coming to New Braunfels, you talked about Top Golf coming. You talked about like the silos and this thing that they're revitalizing in New Braunfels. Like, give us a breakdown individually in each of these videos. Like, how do you put together a script, or are you just talking like off the top of your head? How do you do
Oh,
it?
no, 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 no. Thank you. Good question. No, I prep to no end. I prep so that I do script it. I do type it out. First of all, I'll take an idea and I'll sit down and I'll say to myself, I'll have to pass the test. So what? Who cares? Okay, Rod, you're going to do a video on the new and first and only 55 and older active adult community in New Braunfels Del Webb that's under construction right now. So what? Who cares? Well, a lot of people care because they may have kids here, right? So that's a relevant video. Or I may do something like, the master plan the city has for its parks. Now, is that as popular? Maybe not, but is that relevant? Yes, because the surveys show that the city surveys show that that's what people want more of is parks. So I'll take an idea, right? And I have to pass that test first. So what? Who cares? And then I'll break it down, beginning, middle, and end, and what I want to cover. And then I go, what I want to cover in each one of those. And then I write it. And when I write it, I go over it, I tweak it, right? So I read it out loud. So it sounds like a conversation and not stilted. I write in conversation form. I write in broadcast form. So I write as I talk. And I'll go over the script several times so that when I get out in the field and we're ready to roll, I can improvise. But I find out when I talk more, I screw up. Like when I add stuff, like Rod, just stick to the, I don't want to say stick to the script, but stick to what's on the paper.
Right.
I break it down. I don't go into something because it can seem overwhelming. I get an idea and then like I said, so what, who cares? And if it passes that, then I break it down and then I fill it in and then I write it, I print it, I go over it a few times and yeah, we're ready to go.
And you just go for it. And then obviously
Yeah.
if you just mess up, you can edit that out
Yeah,
after
right.
the fact, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And that happens. That happens. Some good bloopers.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
have
there
a
are a lot of good
question.
bloopers. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't see the hand raising. I was looking for it and I don't see the hand raising
All good.
emoji. So number one, do you always go on site even if there's nothing there yet? Do you always go on site, use a drone? And if you do go on site and there's nothing there, do you also maybe do a green screen? Not a green screen. This isn't Instagram.
Right.
Do you also maybe go on the website and kind of scroll through their photos? How do you, and I'll look at your videos too, but
So good question. The majority of our videos I shoot at Landa Park, which is one of our parks, and I start at 7:30 in the morning it's gotten noisier over the years because we've grown in population. I went from filming in the center of town because it got too loud to the park. So most of it's there. I have to fill it out. If it's okay with the developer, I would love to do it on site, right? Because that's the most authentic form of that video. We did a video with the developer or with the new master plan community in town. That was great. It was raining, but it was awesome. We got a lot of information and it was authentic and it was right there. So a lot of times I like to be on site. It's the same thing with my Instagram reels. I'll pull up to something and say, wow, what's this? And here's what it is. And it's a discovery thing. I think I want to make sure people feel a part of it so they can see what I'm talking about. I can pull stuff from the website or from Google, but to me, it's more real and authentic if I'm there. So I've never shot indoors, except tomorrow's video, we shot the market report indoors because it was 20 degrees that day. But it worked out great. So yeah, most of my stuff is shot at the park. I'd say maybe 10% of it, 15% of it is shot on site.
That's a great
I
question.
don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
yes, and I'm in Texas as well. I'm in Denton, so just north of Dallas Fort Worth, and we've
Okay.
got so much development happening as well, but it's still a lot of it's just dirt.
No, that's fine. That's fine because you want to be the expert from dirt. You want to be the expert from the beginning because
Okay.
that's when you want people to start following you. And then you'll always have something to do. I mean, whether
Okay.
it's short form or long form, you want to be on it. And it's just speak to people like you would speak to your best friend or your mom, whoever your favorite person is. That's who you're talking to in these videos. So if it's
Okay.
exciting, for crying out loud, be excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we've got, so just like you, we have a community coming. It's going to end up being like 6,000 homes. So
Yeah,
many years in the making.
that's relevant.
So would you continue to go out there 6 months later and just keep updating?
Good question. Good question. So we'll also have an Instagram page, and we have a couple master plan communities going on. And we'll do updates on, how the newest master plan community on the large park that's also going to be open to the public, by the way, and keep people in the loop there, and how the recreational entertainment district is coming along or breaking ground. So we'll continue to I would say update people at least once a month on Instagram and every other month on YouTube with the coming to New Braunfels. So people are updated. They're in the know. There's plenty going on, and I can't imagine where you're at in Denton. You said that there's tons of stuff going on because of all the growth there. So there's awesome opportunity to be that person.
And someone asked where you get your information. So something that for us, my husband, he's also a realtor. We're highly involved with our local chamber, Denton Chamber. And we also just joined the Economic Development Partnership, and which is you have to actually join that. And so we'll have firsthand information on everything that's coming to Denton County. So that does cost, but it's important because not only are you getting firsthand information, but now you're kind of with the people that are making those decisions. And so, you're showing your expertise in
I
front of
think
those
that's
people as well.
golden. Just leverage that for your business. Like you said, you're going to find out, you'll go to a banquet, right? Chamber banquet, and maybe the Economic Development Corporation will give an update on the city, or the city planner will be there. You will have that information that night, and you can put that together for the next morning. So, I mean, to have those doors open to you, and to have that opportunity to sit with the chamber and the economic development who holds the pulse of the city, I think there's no reason you shouldn't be the go-to person for what's going on where you live.
That's so good. Rod, when we talked on the phone a few days ago, you mentioned how do you get so much info that you can't find on Google? That's the key. That's the core of your channel, is just getting as much info as you can about these different topics that people are obviously searching for. What I wanted to ask that piggybacks off what Tom and Jennifer asked about earlier is how do you film and edit these videos? And before you answer that, Rod, let me just show the first 10 to 15 seconds of a video. And don't worry, Rod, I watched this video already all the way through. So you got a good amount of watch time from me already. So this is Jennifer, this is a new community that's opening up in Rod's suburb, New Braunfels. Let's see it.
It's been a minute since we talked exclusively about New Braunfels' first master plan community, Veramendi. 5 years into this 15-year master plan, a lot has changed at Veramendi, and a lot more change is underway and planned. Today, I'm bringing the very latest on how Veramendi has evolved over the years and what's coming to Veramendi, a lot more in 2025, this year, 2026, and beyond.
First off, that's so good. That tactic is just so underrated. Did he give anything that's coming up in New Braunfels? No. Did he give a town center or all these things that flashed in front of me? Did he say any of that? Absolutely not. He used the audio to convince his audience that this is the video for them, and he used the visuals to plant that seed that there's all this information that's coming up. If I want to know what's going on in New Braunfels, am I watching this video? 1000% of the time, right? So that tactic, I think, is underrated. And Rod, going back to the question of like, how do you film and edit? Looks like you're just in a park. Like, walk us through, like, are you using your phone? Like, what equipment are you using? How do you do it?
5 years old, right here.
There you go.
Why don't you get a new phone? I don't need one. 5-year-old phone. And so this is how that's it. This is how I film. Just hit record. I make sure I'm in the middle. So composition is there. I use my Rode wireless mics are in my bag here, my backpack. Those are a couple $100. Audio's got to be good. The video's got to be good. And more importantly, the content has to be on too. That's relevant. That's the most important thing. And a tripod, $36 tripod that I bought from Best Buy 8 years ago, or maybe a little bit more right now. So Rode wireless mics, my iPhone, and a tripod. Now, I would say about 10% of my videos now, 10 15% of my videos are shot by a videographer. The same videographer who set this nice studio up for me today. So that's part of YouTube. YouTube allows you to grow your business to a point where you can kind of up your game when you need to up your game. And that's one of the things I'm grateful about this journey.
Rod, did you start like that with the videographer and the setup and everything?
No, no. I started with $3.16 in my account. So just just video, just myself.
Truth. So much truth in there. So I've seen Rod's tripod. It is so it's in rough shape. It's like
Yeah.
it's very real. I've seen him talk about it, but I see a lot of people start YouTube and they go right away into like the big camera. They want to talk camera equipment, all this stuff. What Rod really just honed in on is it's all about what he's saying in the video, right? It's the tactics, it's
Yeah.
the audio more than anything. I've watched Rod's earlier videos from 3 to 4 years ago. He didn't have like the drone shots and all that stuff. It was just more his audio was captivating and was giving news of what was happening in New Braunfels. And if somebody wants to move to New Braunfels, what are they doing? They're looking for news. They're looking for an expert, somebody like Rod. And that's why he's been able to do so much business from it. So I can really appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions about the filming and
Yeah.
editing portion? Go ahead, Andy.
Actually, it's not about the film and editing, but I wanted to ask,
Yeah, go
do
ahead.
you do home tours? And if you do, is there a separate channel for that? Because it looks like this is all like information, which is amazing, but you do home tours as well.
I do not.
Okay.
I suppose I can. And as Raj would tell you, it works to success. That's not one of my buckets right now.
Okay. Thank you.
And the way you did a home tour that I saw like a year ago, Rod, it wasn't really a home tour. It was about your clients moving from California to their brand new build. And you talk more about the process. You almost like interviewed them at
Yes.
Kitchen Island. And I remember that was more of like education, right? Not necessarily like a home tour.
Yeah, the process of building a custom home. So definitely, that's what made it relevant.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's still more like real estate education, lifestyle, neighborhoods, all that stuff. Okay.
And I mean, that's important because I think I had my channel set to entertainment when I first started, and I was getting all these like really nasty comments. Like, I guess that's what happens in entertainment. I don't know. And then I switched it to education. It was a totally different crowd. The most important thing is seeing people on the streets or at the grocery store, and they kind of confirm what you're doing. In other words, they'll say, "Hey, thanks for the content. We watch all the time. Um, we appreciate the information." And that's my goal. You think, well, his goal is to sell homes. No, it really isn't. My goal is to provide relevant information to somebody who is making by far the biggest decision of their life.
100%. And that trust factor is huge, right? It's like,
Right.
who am I going to trust in this process to make this big decision? And then here's this guy giving all this information about the area that I want to buy into. It becomes like a no-brainer. That's great. You know, going back to when you first started, Rod, did you start targeting New Braunfels right away, or was there like a target audience that you were after that was maybe different from your current target audience?
No, it was a good question. New Braunfels from the start because that's where I landed. And I decided to stay here and focus on this. I think early in my career, I was just all over the place, when I was in real estate back in Michigan. Well, let me do a little here, a little here, a little here. And I didn't do as much video. I was just focusing on different areas. I'm like, no, I'm just going to stay hyper local here. So I actually I had a kind of I'm going to say running start, but during the pandemic, yeah, everyone's going nuts. Like, I got to do something to make a difference because I think it's all within us, right? So I had this show every week. It was called um, Great News New Braunfels. Great News New Braunfels. And I had people send in their overcoming adversity stories or their stories about during the pandemic where maybe they were giving back. And I pieced everything together and it came together like a show every Friday night. And I pulled my hair out because I was just learning how to edit. And I'm like, this is a big learning curve here. But I kind of got my start and I knew people in the community through that. So I'm grateful that I went after that right away because I was going nuts. I'm like, I have to make a difference. I can't just sit home. And I was glad I was able to help my wife and so she can stay home and stay safe. But I had to do something. And that was my something that eventually, like I said, gave me a running start and created these local relationships that still maintain today. And that's key.
So good. I love it. While anybody has any other questions, I wanted to go back to what Andy said, but feel free to drop questions in the chat or just unmute. You can interrupt us. Again, this is super casual. What I want to go back to, though, is what Andy said about property tours. So when Rod was talking about content strategy, if you look at my channel versus Rod's, it looks completely different, but our content strategies are almost identical. Okay. What Rod mentioned is his buckets of content. The majority of his videos are lifestyle videos. Why are people moving to New Braunfels? The lifestyle, laid back lifestyle. What is it about? They want to discover New Braunfels. That's different. It's the same tactic, but it's different from what I do. The majority of all my videos are home tours. The majority of my content, like 65, 70%, same as Rod, is in 3 master plan communities where if you want to build a home from $700,000 to 1.5 million in the northwest corridor of Austin Metro, you're in tech, you want to be about 30 to 45 minutes drive from the big tech companies like Amazon and Microsoft, you're going to land, in my opinion, at a high probability in 3 communities. So 70% of my home tours are those 3 communities. I talk about those communities often in those home tours. I go off on stories of people moving from Seattle and California to resonate with my audience so that they can identify things that they can relate to. It makes them feel comfortable. And I get a lot of business through those videos, and 84% of my contracts are in those 3 communities. But just like Rod mentioned, his neighborhoods videos, his coming to New Braunfels, that gets thousands of views. That's more top of funnel. My top of funnel are these big custom homes, monster homes that have amazing views that are like $2 to $4 million. As you can tell, those are my most viewed homes. In fact, Rod, we almost worked on a client together that came in from this video because they were looking at New Braunfels. They already had land and they had watched this custom home video with this builder. And those custom homes, I don't do any. I've never done a custom home. I've only worked with production builders or pseudo custom home, but these get me all the views and new viewers to my channel. And then where they convert is the 70%. Same as Rod, right? So I think everybody can take Rod's tactics and kind of apply it. Obviously, we learned from the same guy, Jeremy. And so Jeremy Knight kind of taught us these buckets of content. Take these buckets and kind of run with it in any way you want, but run with it for your target audience, right? Like Rod, you just kept leaning in on that target audience more than anything. I just out of curiosity with that, because I can go off on kind of my target audience, but I really want to talk about like New Braunfels and people moving there. For your target audience, did you discover like a certain demographic that was moving to that area and then you leaned in, or has it just kind of been all over the place?
I think the certain demographic of those families with conservative values. And I say that because I always ask people to not waste my time. You know how we get cute sometimes and say, well, I don't want to waste your time. That's BS. It's all about our time too. So I ask them, I'm like, why do you want to move here? Kind of like New Braunfels has a plague, right? I really want to gauge their motivation. And 9 times out of 10, they say we want to be around like-minded people. So you can figure that out. So that's the demographic, because those are the people moving here. And the demographic are people who say, listen, great job, keep doing what you're doing. So in other words, my demographic is myself, because I like to be myself. And these viewers are saying, hey, listen, this is great, keep doing it. Well, these are people who are like me. So they want me to be me and not somebody else. But I would say if you're looking for one box, it would be those with conservative values. But it's not like I tout that in every video. That's New Braunfels. So.
Yeah. Tom just hit a bullseye. Your vibe attracts your tribe. I like that.
Yep.
So I'm curious then, political, obviously, we just came off an election. It's a very
Right.
delicate subject. It's extremely polarizing. How do you drip on your audience in your videos about that?
I don't. I actually, if it's relevant to the market, like not tomorrow's market report, but probably the next one. Uh, I was talking to a client who is also an economist yesterday. I said, he says, yeah, Rod, he's just going to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I'm like, that's fine. If it has anything to do with the Federal Reserve, or let's say the president says, I want these rates down. Well, can you actually do that? Okay. And if you're out there waiting on the fence for somebody to say, look, I want those down, you think it's going to happen, I'm going to tell you it's not going to happen, but I hope I am wrong. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen because we are still high in housing prices across the country. We're still high in grocery cost, and inflation has actually ticked up the last couple of months and further away from the Fed's targeted 2% rate. So it will not happen. If it does, I would love to be wrong. But if you're waiting for something to happen, it's not going. Don't hold your breath. I'll get into it in that sense, but I won't go out of my way to say, hey, what do you think about this? If it has any relevance, it would be in the housing market report, real estate information.
That's great. And then
Yeah.
people can get your vibe, like Tom was mentioning, and then you attract people who want to move for those reasons, which is
Right.
great. Yeah.
Right.
Selena asked a question in the chat. Do you use a VA or videographer to edit and prepare your videos, or do you edit them yourself?
I would say 97% of them I edit myself. The exception would be tomorrow's and others a few others that the videographers have shot and edited, but most of the time it's myself. But we have one that's dropping tomorrow that I just think was greatly edited by the videographer because it really moves, and with the B-roll, add that to that, and it just, I think it turned out well.
When did you first hire your videographer, Rod?
So, I want to say 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
About 3 years ago, when I felt that I needed to do something, like the the woman who lives in Denton, her name again?
That was Jennifer.
Jennifer. Okay,
Yes,
so
sorry.
right, Jennifer. I started doing the drone stuff when new communities started opening up, when people couldn't really see it from the surface, but if you give them a different perspective, they'll understand it more. That's when I started reaching out to a videographer, and only those things. And the coming to New Braunfels stuff, I'd about 3 years, but I don't use a videographer every single week.
Yeah. For my content, Rod, I was at about like 5 to 6 hours a week for my videographer. Would you say
Mhm.
that's about right for you? Maybe a little bit more?
Boy, that's tough. I would say in all, I'd say about 15, 18 hours a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And
Yeah.
it's good because you can batch, right? It's all around New Braunfels. So you take drone shots
Exactly.
here, you take drone shots there, you
So
just
if
keep drone
there's
in the air.
that's a good, so speaking
Yeah.
of batch, this coming to New Braunfels thing, it's a monster. So I'll pull on everything. I'll look back at my Instagram reels, which are more daily and more instant. And I'll say, okay, what do I want to include in this video? What's new? What's coming in 2026 and 2027? I'll write all that stuff down, and then I'll put them in order of relevance. Costco is probably the biggest story here. So that's going to go at the top, right? And what it's going to mean for that new master plan community. Restaurants, a soda shop opening, it's probably going to be a little bit further down on the list, right? If there's a nail place, let's say we're going to, like, Signature Nails is a plug for them. It's like the Taj Mahal of nail places. This when it opens, it's like over 150 seats. So that may play up a little further because it's unique, right? But there's millions of nail places in town, but this one is kind of like, and the 3-story rooftop bar that will be opening soon. That's kind of unique. That's like Nashville stuff. So it's hey, what do you think will play well? What's unique? What's big? And what's worth mentioning, but not at the top? And then we just put those in order. That's how I, batch everything together.
That's so good. We're going to get to Instagram in a second because I'm really curious how you're crossing over from
Mhm.
YouTube into Instagram. But Fuzz asked a question of what software do you use to edit videos?
Premiere Pro. So Adobe Premiere Pro. Um,
Absolutely.
And
Do you like
yeah.
Adobe Premiere?
I'm very basic about it. So
Me too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I stay as basic as you can. I don't get into After Effects or any kind of other effects unless it's something small. But yeah, I mean, it's a learning curve, but once you learn it, you're definitely on your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa, I'm going to throw it to you in a second where you can unmute, ask a couple questions. But I want to add to that. I also use Adobe Premiere Pro. I find I don't use 99% of the features in it. I really just click the microphone button and I know
Right.
how to do some editing. I know how to speed
Yeah.
things up. I know how to slow it down. I know how to
Yeah.
transition. It's super basic. And just like Rod, learn from YouTube at many late nights of trying to just figure out how to use Adobe Premiere. But I find it's a very clunky software if you try to get advanced. But if you keep it basic, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Melissa, go ahead.
I noticed that one of the recommendations that was going around for a long time for YouTube channels is like moving to New Braunfels or something to where it would catch the search, but you just have your name with realtor afterwards, and that you started it. So I'm kind of curious how your name plays into this. And then you started about 4 years ago, it looks like.
Mhm.
How long
Mhm.
did it take you to get traction?
Good question. I started in June of 2020. I did a video in June. I did two in July. I did one in August. I did two in September. I did one in October, two in November, and then December 2020. I haven't missed a week since then. So if you're talking about consistency, so if I started in June 2020, okay, technically it took me 6 months to get my first lead. Okay, so that was, but when I started doing things consistently, right? My first lead was a family from Arizona, had to get out, wanted to move here, and that was a $500,000 house. The next family bought 3 acres in one of our acreage communities in New Braunfels, um, and built a $1.4 million custom home on it. So I represented them on both. And then things just really, took off from there. So it took me about 6 months, but I'll caution you in saying that it wasn't a consistent 6 months. Only in December of 2020 did it become consistent every week. So consistency is critical.
And Melissa, what was the first question? Was there something that I think there was two questions,
It
right?
was about where I struggle is like one person will tell you for your YouTube channel, you have to name it something like
Oh, right.
moving to New Braunfels. And then another person says, put your name, but never put realtor. And then some people say, put your name realtor afterwards. So I'm confused as to best advice.
Well, I mean, I think what was the identity is important, right? But more importantly, when you upload a YouTube video, there's a prompt that says add tags, add more, and then you'll add tags to that. So, and this is how people search on Google and YouTube, right? So if you're searching for something in New Braunfels, Texas, well, in your tags, you're going to type in New Braunfels, Texas, because that's one of the prompts that people are looking for. So those add-ons, those tags are important.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of that by saying, Rod. Oh, I want to ask Rod. Do you ever say your name in your videos?
I have not in 237 long form videos or 236. I haven't said my name once. I haven't said my company once.
Have you
No.
said you're a realtor? People should reach out to you.
I said, whether you're thinking about buying or selling a New Braunfels, I'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. Email me, you can call me, or you can shoot me a text. As always, thank you so much for watching our videos, and we'll see you on the next one. That's it. Every week. It's like the Muppet Show.
Yes.
I mean, it's the same sign off. It's
Do
the
you
same
ever
thing.
say, like, do you ever, in any part of your video, do you ever say, like, subscribe? Well,
I do in the beginning. Very good question. I
okay.
said, if you're at the beginning, I'll say, like Raj showed the Mindy first 15 seconds. And right after that, I said, I'll tell people, say, hey, if you're new to my channel, if you're new here to my channel, thank you so much for hopping aboard, because every week we're putting out videos, timely, relevant information like this about what it's like to live in New Braunfels. So I won't ask people to subscribe on every video, but on some I will. So on some, I'll change the positioning of the, hey, subscribe. Maybe it's halfway through the video or a quarter of the way through the video. And then I'll just jump in on another frame and say, hey, look, if you like this content, subscribe because we're
Yeah.
putting this stuff out every week. So it's a couple different ways.
Yeah, it's value driven more than anything,
Yeah.
right? And real
Yes.
estate resource is very different from, hey, I'm a realtor, you should reach out to
Yeah.
me, I can do all your needs and all this stuff, right? It's less salesy, and I think that that's why you're dominating too. A lot of people don't they're surprised when you hear like Rod doesn't even say his name. His name is the channel, right? So like people aren't they're not stupid, right? If they really like this guy, they can zoom out, they can see his name. If they want to contact him, is it difficult? No, like his number is right here. So it's not like you have to advertise all these things for people to reach out to you. It's more about connecting with them on an emotional level, showing that you're an amazing resource for information. And clearly, like that's what Rod's doing here. One thing I'll just add to that is what I always tell people from the beginning in my channel is my name is Raj Sahu. I'm a realtor in Austin, Texas, but you shouldn't work with me as a realtor. More on that later. And I would just go into the video and the
I
home
love
talk,
it.
and I would just focus on the home more than anything. Later on in the video, like 80% of the way into the video, most of my audience has dropped off, but the people that are staying on, that's my target audience. And I would say, hey, I want to clarify something I said earlier in the video. I said, you shouldn't work with me as your realtor. What I meant by that, and I would go on to explain that I only focus on a certain criteria that people have. When people have different criteria, different part of Austin, different price point, different type of real estate, downtown condo, investment property, something like that, that I'm not good at, I'm not afraid to send you to another realtor who's better at working with you because they're more specialized in that criteria. And I've gotten so many calls, dozens and dozens of
It's
calls from people that
interesting.
be like, hey, I know I'm reaching out to you because I know you're going to be honest with me. Here's my criteria. Would love to know if you'd want to work with me or if there's somebody else. And that's
So
awesome
by
because you get
right.
leads, but you get referrals too. Yeah.
So do people hang on, you think, when you say, hey, listen, you shouldn't pick me as your realtor, but more on that, in a couple minutes, do you find people holding on then?
I think it piques their curiosity. Like, what did he
Right.
just say? The last thing people want to do is feel advertised to. And I never
Right.
get that
Right.
vibe when I watch your channel, Rod. Like, I know I'm
Yeah.
going to get value from you, but
Right.
other people, when they start their videos, and you remember 2021, 2022, everybody's like, they're the videos on them and it's all about them. You should like, then subscribe, and this is what you're doing. You should reach out to me. It's like you have to give value first. And I think you do that really well in your videos. And I just try to do it in a different way.
I've got a question for those on right now. How many of you prospect the traditional way, or I would call it the old way? FISBOs, expires, door knocking, postcards. How many of you do that? Yes? No? No. How do you prospect?
Fuzz said he works his database, mostly SOI.
Awesome. Okay. People like to work people who are just like them.
Social media.
Okay, so very good. Social media. So I would say that video is the new form of prospecting, because everything that you're doing, you're thinking of a video idea, you're writing it out, you're shooting it, you're editing. That's all prospecting. I mean, you can talk to up to anywhere from 3 to 6 serious clients every week. Can you do that by calling? Closers? Maybe not. Maybe not. So this way you're getting people who like you, because we know that people work with people who are just like them. Whether you go on a listing appointment or not, they still have to kind of like you. This way you're doing videos and they see you like, okay, I like this person or I don't like this person, but I can still use their information if I don't like them. So if they call you, they already know about you. You don't know about them. They're chasing you. Okay. So that's the great thing. It's like reverse prospecting.
Yeah, it's so good. It's prospecting when you're sleeping, and it's
Right.
always running, right?
Right.
So Tammy mentioned SOI, referral, social media, YouTube long form. Great. That's good. Anybody, feel free to unmute, drop some questions in the chat. While we're waiting, and I'll just wait. If somebody interrupts, we'll always prioritize that question. But I talked about connecting with your audience emotionally, Rod, and I have my own way of doing it. And I feel like that's obviously I've sat down with so many clients face to face for lunch. I try to do market research during those times of why they reach out to me, not the other YouTubers. What are you finding people say about you when you ask those questions of why they reached out to you? And how do you convert leads into clients?
So people say I'm transparent. That's the number one thing. And that's why they reach out to me.
Honest.
Yeah, honesty.
Yeah.
So when they get me on the phone, I'm the same way. I'm no different. Um, and I don't really try to convert them. I qualify them to disqualify them because again, I don't want to get tire kickers. I'd rather spend the time with my family. I will qualify people to disqualify them. What's your timeline? Well, sometime in 2027. The market will change 10 times by then. Let's talk at a later date. Don't you want to know? We want to move there. We've never been there before. Okay, here's some things to do when you get here. You won't be with us? No. You have to drive yourself. You have to get to know the area. See, I'm not commission. I don't have commission breadth because I know they've never been here before. And me being an Uber is just going to cripple them. So I'm very honest with people on the phone as I am on video. And that's the biggest comment they have is just the transparency on the videos.
That's great. Jennifer, I see you're unmuted. Have a question?
Yes, I mean we've had a YouTube channel for I think a year and a half, and it seems like it's getting it's tanking actually. And at first we did just kind of throw spaghetti on the wall. We were out in cities that were 45 minutes away. If y'all know Frisco, it's super popular, and it also has a ton of YouTube channels on it. So we've decided to come back closer to Denton and just do Denton and then some of the cities around it, rather than just Denton though, because so we've also gone from 2 week to one. I don't know if that's a bad thing.
That's consistency. That's great.
Okay. And then you said all of your videos are outside. So when we are doing a video that has nothing to do with the neighborhood tour, you still suggest just going somewhere in the city and doing the market update while you're walking around the downtown square or in a park or something rather than sitting in an office?
Well, I mean, it works both ways. I mean, look at Raj and look at Jeremy. These guys, they've got a great business. They've got great businesses, and they do most of their stuff, if I'm not mistaken, indoors. Like Jeremy has ventured out more the last year. But Raj, I mean, there are people who do it indoors. So I can't really say one over the other. You just have to make sure it's relevant. I will tell you this story. You mentioned there's a ton of realtors doing YouTube video. Yeah, there is. I promise you, if you look in the rear view mirror, it's all going to pass you by. If there's an area that you know the most, that you're a master in, and you know it intimately, do that. I don't care if there are 4 million agents doing YouTube. Doesn't mean they're doing it right. So I think focus on what you know, okay? And then just go from there. If there are attached cities to that main city, you can always do videos about, anywhere but Denton. And here are the 4 suburbs that you might think about moving to. But I would just double down on what was working or what is working. And that was said to me 2 years ago from one of my mentors. He says, dude, just double down on what's working. And since then I have. So double down on what's working and you'll see the results and continue to stay consistent. I mean, I would have to say, I have people look at my channel, those people who are doing it 10, 20, 30 times better than I am, because I never want to be the smartest person in the room. So it could happen, could have to do with the content, the way it's packaged, the way it's delivered. That's something, it's not going to be a blanket solution for everyone. That's going to be somebody diving into what you're doing now. And are they going to watch 6 or more seconds into it? That's the key is getting people's attention like that, which is important.
Jennifer, do you mind if I share your channel so we can give you some feedback?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
That'd be helpful. Okay, great. So I got it up here on my screen. And so I want to ask you a couple questions. Why are people moving to Denton?
It's definitely more affordable than Dallas, but yet you still kind of get all the fun things that Dallas offers. It's in a great location. We've got 2 major universities. There's a lot of growth happening.
And sorry, I'm just going to keep interjecting because it's like rapid fire. So I got it. Where are people moving from into Denton?
California, New York, we just got a call yesterday. We haven't had a call in many months from Kansas, Canada.
Okay. Why are people moving from those areas? What are their pain points?
Jobs. And honestly, they prefer they do talk politically and they prefer the Texas.
Fair enough. Yeah. What are the jobs that are people moving to Denton for?
Most of them are going to be tech or office jobs.
Okay, tech or office jobs. And then Denton versus like Frisco or Plano or all that stuff. Is it just because like people get more space and more they get their dollar goes further in Denton compared to these
Dollar
other
goes further for sure.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm trying to dissect is 5% of what you really need to go down. You need to ask yourself a million questions of who are these people? Why are they moving here? Talk to builder agents, ask like with the last 20 clients that you've had, what was the motivating factor of why they bought in this area? What's your most popular floor plan in this community? Why is it your most popular floor plan? What are the most popular structural upgrades that people are putting into their home? Why are they putting it into their home? How do they use that space? These are all talking points that you can put into your videos to keep attracting to your target audience. And when I keep doing this, it's like, that's what your YouTube channel needs to be. It needs to be like this flashing light, like over here, over here, over here, right? Like every one of those things, answers to those questions is like a way to get people's attention. And then what you need to do is start your videos with some of those pain points. If you say, like Jennifer, you're starting a video, if you say, hey, if you're looking for your dollar to go very far and you're not getting that in California and your tech job is taking you here to the Dallas area, you want to look out for Denton. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. But there's one reason that nobody's talking about why you shouldn't move to Denton. We're going to cover all of that in this video. If you start your video like that, that is exactly what Raad's talking about. It's grabbing their attention. It's appealing, right? You need to speak to their pain points more than anything else, right? And then what I would do, and why I'm pulling up your channel, if you look at what's most popular, like what is Pecan Square?
It is a master plan community just right outside of Denton, and it truly is a great community. And we have a new one coming right next to it that is going to be developed by the same developer.
Nice. So yeah, what Raad was saying is like double down on what's working, like discovering Pecan. I mean, my wife's from Dallas. I don't know Pecan Square. I've never been to Denton, but there's probably things that people can discover similar to what Raad is doing that you can talk about that's going to grab their attention.
Now, I did notice that. I love the consistency, by the way. I did notice that a lot of this has to do with homes. I don't do homes, so it's different. So I don't know how that plays. I do lifestyle stuff, so the home stuff kind of bores me. It really does. Unless it's like a German, European, French custom home, something different. Then
you don't like touring the same homes over and over again?
Yeah, honestly, I get bored. That's why I stick to lifestyle, because the home part, it's funny. There's only one sales rep in this area who really gets it, who actually sells the lifestyle. But the rest are just selling homes. I'm like, guys,
And honestly, we did that because it truly is the easiest thing to do for us. And if we don't know what to film, it's like, okay, let's just go here. We can walk through the model and say, here's this, this, and this. And now we have a video.
Right.
But like you said, our most popular one is touring the amenities of Pecan Square and what that entire neighborhood has to offer.
It's a wider angle, right? It's a wider angle lens what you're doing, because when you're talking about lifestyle, that's what people want to know. And then if you're talking about lifestyle, something in that title has to reflect that. If it's just about seeing you in the house, I think it's going to be another house video, because that's what's coming across. But if it's about, oh my God, look what's happening here, that's where you're getting your most views, because you have a wider perspective of that area, and that people are probably sharing that video too. So your house videos are getting some views, as we see, but you're, like Raj is showing, your master plan communities are getting, much wider reach.
Yeah.
And do you share, we don't even talk about our YouTube channel on social media.
I don't I don't stick it on Facebook because those two companies don't like each other, and the
No.
algorithm just most of my friends on Facebook are who? Realtors. And yet don't want real. If you guys go to my channel, cool. Just don't subscribe, please.
Yeah.
Because it really screws up the algorithm. I'll go from 19 subs one day and then people are just like, oh, okay, we get it, and they'll unsubscribe and it'll crash. But yeah, I try not to share anything. If I share anything, it'll be the actual clip or full video, but it won't be the link to my YouTube channel.
And yeah, and going back to what your original question was, Jennifer, is you mentioned you weren't like targeted. You're kind of like all over, and that's what I would say. I agree with you, and I think you need to get targeted. Like that's you. I think you know the solution. Like under 450K, but then under a million, then 2.6 million, then this area, then this area, then this area. As you can tell from Rod's what works is it's all New Braunfels, right? What works with my channel? It's all home tours around production builders that you can build on 60 up to 90-foot wide lots. I rarely do the 1 acre. I rarely do starter homes. I might do that like 5% of the time, but 70% of the time is 60 to 90-foot wide lots, forever homes, 3 to 5,000 square feet. It's my target audience, right? And so I've really honed in on that. If you want to go general, like moving to Dallas or moving to whatever, which I think is really difficult to do now, then you have to get like kind of controversial or do something that's very appealing, like huge regret moving from California to Austin, Texas,
Right.
sad future, builders terminating. These are controversial topics. It's really good YouTube tactics, but you have to do this at an extremely high level. And if you're not going to do that, do what Rod's saying. Focus on communities in an area, but get targeted as much as possible.
And then take a look at Jeremy's thumbnails or Raj's thumbnails. Um, it, it's the reaction that it's the face that people are reacting to. So if home prices all of a sudden just tank in Denton, I mean that's a video. A house burning, although that may not be the right choice, given the time we're in.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, but you know what I'm saying? Your your facial expression is so important to people clicking, and the headline too. You
Yeah.
can use ChatGPT for that, guys, or you can go on Google and see what's playing out well. Let's say you do a video about a master plan community in Denton. Okay, well, just type in that master plan community and see what's playing well, or just chat GPT. Hey, I'm doing this video on this. Can you come up with a headline for me? And they'll come up with 2 sentences. I'm like, no, I need it shorter. And they'll come up with 4 or 5 words. And I'm like, okay, that's perfect. So what the focus is, and then, the headline is important, and a couple words in the thumbnail possibly. And then the headline's what, 5, 6, 7, 8 words. That's it. But the headline, I'm telling you guys, it's like watching TV, right? If you watch the news, which I haven't in 16 years, but if you watch the news, everything has a color for a reason. If it's red, it's breaking news, right? And it's everything is just there's a purpose behind everything. And so you have to have a purpose behind everything that you're doing. Just doing a thumbnail is not good enough. I mean, the thumbnail takes time. Sometimes it can be frustrating, but it's the first thing people see, and it's the reason they're going to click or not click.
Definitely. And in other words, Jennifer, you got to create those buckets of content and then focus all your efforts on it, right? Like Jeremy's channel compared to Rod's channel, compared to my channel, all look very different from each other, but we're all very targeted on something, right? We all have our buckets of content. Rod, we got 1 more minute. Can we get a high level on what you're doing with Instagram?
Sure. So Instagram, I started really diving into it 2 years ago, 170 reels 2 years ago, 270 reels is my goal. And I met that goal in 2024.
Nice.
So these are things like after this, I'll go shoot. There's more parking spaces coming to our historical district of Green, which is always crowded, for crying out loud. So that's going to put some relief on people visiting here. And so people don't have to walk as far. That's a reel. Okay. Or checking up an update on the 3-story rooftop bar. So things that are happening that day or that week, I'll cut. and I'll repurpose some of my YouTube videos. So I'll repurpose, if we did a video, a long form video on non-HOA communities, then I'll cut that up into 6 or 7 different videos and start that as a series on Instagram.
So good. This is more like branding, right? Like your face is in front of it. It's like try to get exposure, right? And then YouTube is what really builds the trust. I'm assuming because it's more long form, not like a quick hit, right?
Well, Instagram has become a lead generator, actually. And it's, again, the consistency. People know it says Raad Alawan Real Estate on your handle on Instagram, so I don't have to tell anybody. But I've been getting more deal. We've closed 4 clients from Instagram in the last year and a half.
Wow.
So Instagram has become a lead source.
That's pretty quick success, especially when just starting out. But you did a lot of reels and really set a good goal. That's great. Hey, if you got great value from Raad, drop a 1 in the chat. Show some love for Raad. I love your process, Raad. It's so simple. I love your tripod. The first time I saw it, I was like, man, I got to get to know Raad more because that was awesome. It's like I think you really have a passion for moving to New Braunfels. It comes out with you, your vibe, and you also come off as very genuine. And man, that's why when I have somebody who's looking at New Braunfels, I'm like, you're the first person I think of. So I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate you giving us all that great info.
Thank you, Raj. I appreciate the time, and thank you everyone for joining us today.